Okay, welcome back, guys, to Canada Worker. And on today's episode, I'd like to do things a little bit differently. We'll be looking at immigrant series, a new immigrant series, to get to introduce to us the stories of immigrants like me to Canada and the journey, how they came here, how they've been doing, questions you guys have posed to me on the issues of business, on the issues of settling down in Canada. And I have here today a good friend, Dotun. Dotun is my guest. Dotun will introduce himself and tell us um, about what he does and how he came to Canada. And those questions you guys have been asking me, right? I'll ask Dotun a lot of them, and he'll be able to answer them. We'll have this as a two-part series, part one and part two. And yeah, I'd love for you guys to also ask questions. Put them in the comment section. And if we have to drag Dotun back to answer to them, I definitely will do that. But in the meantime, I'll need your help for just one thing. Please like this video now. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, to make sure this video is put out there and to reach out to others. And those of you that aren't yet subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I'll be making a lot more of these vids now. I'll be making them as well as a new series on finances, personal finances. So I know you guys have been asking about that too. So welcome, Dotun, to Canada Worker.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so
My name is Dotun Ayodele Bamishai. Ayomi Dotun Ayodele Bamishai, to be precise. I do that when I want to make sure people don't remember my name, but hey, this is a video, so you can rewind and play as you please. I'm an accountant by profession, trained as an engineer, i.e. 2002. My people, I greet you. University of Ibadan back in the day, and yeah, I moved to Canada in 2013. And what were the drivers of my move? I'd been working as an accountant for a bit, and I think I'd just gotten to that point in with that job and that position that I felt I needed something new, and the opportunities to go to another country felt new. And then even though it was in the same industry, I got to work with a different organization. So that was what really drove me to make the decision, right, to come to Canada. And it's a decision I don't regret. So we can start off right with that. Yeah.
okay. So when you eventually made it down here to Canada, what was it like for you being new in a new place? Because we have this issue of culture shock, that a lot of us have experienced in one way or the other.
Yeah.
It could be in the type of meals, that we had to get acclimatized to. It could be in the work culture,
Yeah.
because back then in 2013, I'm sure you had to either work in offices, unlike now where I think I'll use an arbitrary figure, but like 90% of us are working from home,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that will change with the vaccines people are beginning to take. But let us know, what was it like for you? What would you consider culture shock that you experienced coming to Canada 8 years ago?
Okay, so the first thing was the weather. I made the not too brilliant decision to arrive Canada in the middle of winter. I arrived on the 20th of January.
Same here. I arrived in December, and I've made videos about that. So,
Yes.
guys,
So,
please.
If you are coming, please just come in June, July, August, so that way you have time to acclimatize to the weather. I remember arriving, being picked up by a friend at the airport. There was no snow. There hadn't been any snowfall of recent, but everywhere was dead cold. I happened to have a jacket that I bought in the UK probably 3, 4 years before then that was warm enough. That was the only thing that was warm enough that I had. And I wore that jacket. That was really all you saw me wearing for like the first month, because that was the only thing that kept me warm enough to go outside. So the weather was just hitting, leaving Nigeria in January when it's like 30 degrees, and getting here and it was like minus 20 degrees Celsius. That was the first thing, and it was a real shocker. The second thing for me, I transited from working in a team,
Nice one, man.
right? I transited on working in a team that was, I saw open office, ongoing conversation, knowledge, that kind of thing, to being the only person working with other teams in remote locations. So I joined the company where I was the only person in Calgary at the time, and I was working with people in Lagos and in the UK, right? So that was a huge one for me, because suddenly, even though I was working with teams that were 8 hours away from me, so I would resume work at 8 a.m. and it was 4 p.m. there, and I would spend the first 3 hours of the day just trying to figure out what I needed to get my work done and what other people needed from me that they had asked for while I was sleeping, right? So that time, and of course, the fact that just left Nigeria, everybody you're talking to is in Nigeria. So you're talking to people either very early in the morning or very late in the night, because during the day here, it's night there.
Okay.
So
So our viewers are also like international, not necessarily just Nigerian.
okay.
Yeah, that time difference thing too also applies to a lot of people.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
on our WhatsApp group, we have people from Uganda, Zambia,
Okay.
India, Trinidad. Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to
Yeah.
Anton. So yeah, we have to say too. I'm sure it applies as well to them. So what would you say like is the culture shock you experienced working in the office setting?
Well, for me, it wasn't too. I can't say I really had much of the culture shock there, because I was the office in that sense, right? And then probably maybe like a year into it, one or two other people joined me, but I all I did was I had this space, I had my deliverables, I had my reports, I had access to the technology, and effectively I was working remotely even though I had an office.
Okay.
So I didn't really have too much of a culture shock in that office setting. On the social side of things, yes, I would say it was different, because because I didn't have people at work who are here and had been here that I was connecting with. Building a social circle was difficult.
Okay. So you were already prepared for COVID back then, even
Without realizing
Yeah,
it. True.
yeah.
Now we're having the conversation, right? It makes sense. So it was more or less building relationships and building friendships out of work within the community. I think that's where I was like, okay, where do I start from? And until I moved out of an apartment building into the suburbs, where I had neighbors and I could say this was the guy on my left, this was the guy on my right, this is his family. I can see his kids when they're riding their bicycles, that kind of thing. That's when I started to say, okay, now I know my neighbors and I can connect with them. But apart from that, I was pretty much just out there by myself for the first year.
Okay.
Right.
So we have obviously different experiences, because for me, I found making that transition in the first, few months not so smooth, because of my kind of person actually, and I eventually learned that it's important to network.
Yeah.
Networking actually opens
definitely,
up a lot of doors.
Definitely.
And then, as a piece of advice I have to those watching, which I eventually learned, is that when you get into a new environment, you begin to learn the customs, around, and there are different social nuances. What would apply to ABC Incorporated will be different from what applies to some
actually.
other place.
I hope you don't mind me cutting you
No,
there.
no
So
worries, yeah.
there are two things you said: the cultural nuances. I remember somebody in a formal environment telling me what I was saying what didn't make sense, and I took offense
Yeah.
because I wouldn't say that
To someone
to
else.
somebody else. Not in my not somebody I didn't know very well, not somebody I wasn't close to. I would simply say, okay, you know what, I have a different perspective. I disagree with you, but I wouldn't say what you're saying doesn't make sense, right? And I took offense to it, and it actually cost me a relationship that I look back and I'm like, okay, it didn't really have to go that way. It didn't cost me anything financially or economically or in terms of my career, but that was one person that was like, okay, we really didn't have to sour that if I knew better,
Yeah.
right? So I look back and I'm like, okay, that's one thing that happened to me, and I can say it. Yes, it did happen to me, and it wasn't necessary, but I did it.
Yeah.
Another thing you talked about is networking.
Yeah.
Even though I think I wasn't really actively job hunting. I was connecting with people over time professionally, either people who are CPAs or people who are accountants or people who are business owners who needed accounting services, even though I wasn't providing those services at that time.
Yeah.
But over the years, those relationships have metamorphosed and changed. Okay. Some of those people have become business partners. Some of those people have become clients.
Okay.
Some of those people have become very strong referral sources. Right. So I have to say that networking is gold. The cliche that your net worth is your network is real, and particularly here in Calgary, where you feel like, okay, everybody here is 80% of the population is are immigrants. Who are immigrants? In fact, 100%. Okay, maybe not 100. 99% of the population were immigrants at some point.
And that's one of the reasons why I love this place. I'll put up the video, here or here, but on the reasons why I chose the province of Alberta. And for me, Calgary in particular is the fact that it's really an egalitarian society. Everybody has their voice.
Yes.
You can say what you want within reason and everything. And then it's very cosmopolitan. Just as we're here making this video, you can see, just look at the demographics. We have loads of people walking behind us, going out for a jog, and you can see everyone literally represented here.
Yeah.
It's why I love this place. Okay, something else that I want to talk about is, I've also been doing this series on switching to a particular field, when you get to Canada.
Yeah.
I've done that for business analysis with Eno. I've done that for HR, human resources with Oluwatobi.
Yeah.
So for you, I'm sure some of the viewers would like to know how to make, that transition, or even if it's not a transition. Yeah, it's a transition because accountancy is regulated here. Am I right?
Yes, it is
regulated. So what would you say to, someone coming from India or from China or from Ghana or from wherever, a new immigrant that really wants to continue in their field? Perhaps they don't want to switch to being a BA or switch to being, to HR or something else. Yeah. They want to stick with accounting. What is the process like, to get into it here?
So in terms of getting into the profession, I have to say that at the end of the day, being designated is like the end all and be all of it.
Explain what being designated means.
So that means getting your letters. That means you are officially recognized as a CPA. Now it can be a process. In the last 5-6 years, people who are ACCA designated could come into Canada, and based on the mutual agreement between ACCA and the old CGA, they were grandfathered into what was considered or what is the CPA profession with a CPA CGA designation. Now, that memorandum of understanding has expired to the best of my knowledge, and I don't think anybody who has not applied for recognition by the end of April or probably the end of May 2021 will be able to get grandfathered into the CPA CGA. And that leaves only one route to getting the designation, and that route is exams, whether it's the reciprocity exam if you're coming from the UK, the US, I think Ireland, Australia, probably a handful of countries, maybe about 7-8 different organizations that have reciprocity with CPA Canada. Apart from that, outside of that reciprocity arrangement, which involves an exam, the other option would be having your credentials assessed by CPA, and then them deciding how much credit you would get. So you could end up starting the professional series, or you may end up going back as far as the preparatory series, which is equivalent of getting a bachelor's in accounting. So, uh, getting in back into the profession, you based on your experience, you may be able to get work in practice. Particularly if you have Big Four accounting experience, you could end up back in either a Big Four firm here or in one of the other accounting firms in the city. But at the end of the day, if you are considering staying in accounting long term and you are not, you should prepare for some exams.
Okay.
Definitely, you should prepare for some exams. That's what I'm aware of at the moment.
Okay, so one thing I'd like to highlight on that you said is it could take some time
Yeah,
and it's a process.
it is a process.
However, in the times we're in, even let's not pretend that there's the COVID still. Even if it wasn't in these times, you'd still a new immigrant would probably need something to fall back on to make sure the necessary things are being taken care of, right? Like the rent,
Yeah,
and all of that.
yeah,
And I know that for HR, where it is not exactly regulated, and I've explained that before, meaning if you do not have the designations here, you could still, if you've done some previous HR based work, for example, you could still get, work
yes,
as
definitely.
let's say training supervisor or whatever. Training being one of the how will I put it, like the departments in a typical HR structure. You
Yes,
understand? You
yes.
can do manpower development, for example, if you've had that experience. So what can someone that's an accountant, coming in as an accountant from another country do in terms of work while trying to get your designation? What other sub roles are available where you necessarily do not need, your papers or those designations to work as? And if those aren't applicable or available here, what would you advise someone that's an accountant while waiting to get, designated to do in terms of work and other stuff? Seeing that we have COVID still.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely there will always be roles, right? Coming in with accounting is, even though accounting is regulated locally, the body of knowledge to a certain degree is the same. So debit and credit remain debit and credit. Accounting entries are accounting entries. Once you have the basic understanding of the fundamentals, being able to fit into whether it's a management reporting or a financial reporting role, it will not be too challenging. The difficulty most of the time is getting somebody who will take a chance on you and give you the opportunity to
Right.
demonstrate what you really know. So you may end up having to, if you are somebody who is coming in, you have either audit experience or you have controllership experience
Mm.
or you have tax experience, particularly if your tax experience is international tax. You may find yourself having to scale back and deal with bookkeeping and journal entries, whereas you are used to preparing financial statements and corporate disclosure. Or you might find as well, one good skill that is invaluable is to get an understanding of Canadian taxes. So even if all you're just doing is taking a look at the websites of some of the local firms here in Canada, look at what they're saying, just go through their blogs on taxation, take a look at how the basic fundamentals of how taxation is, because Canada is one of the few countries where taxation is based on residency rather than citizenship, right? So just having a that basic understanding gives you an opportunity to start to look at areas in taxation, whether it's corporate or personal, that you can build your knowledge in. And having that knowledge instantly gives you the capacity to earn income, because everybody and every corporation in Canada is required to file a tax return at least once a year. Some corporations file certain types of returns on a monthly basis. So having an understanding of that could instantly become a money spinner for you when you come in country and you're able to demonstrate clearly that you understand personal taxes, you understand corporate taxes, you understand preparing and filing GST returns. Those are skills that nobody can take away from you, whether you have a designation or not. So those roles remain available, but being able to get back into your career and be in that place where you're saying, okay, I used to be a controller, I can take up a controller role, or I used to be an audit manager and I'm getting an audit manager role in a big four firm, would typically end up requiring you to get a designation. So those are the
Okay.
highlights.
Okay.
But definitely, if you get the skills, if you develop the skills, management reporting, financial reporting, taxation, those are things that set you apart very quickly and could land you earning good income very, very quickly.
Okay, so guys, as you can see, this guy has a wealth of knowledge on, accountancy and how it's done here in Canada. I know we've talked a bit on this. We have a WhatsApp group as well. So if you really want to know more about this stuff, please ask your questions in the comments. He will get to see them. He also has a YouTube channel where he's focused, on Africa. You get the chance
Opportunities
to
for Africans
opportunities for
and
Africans
Africans in the
in
diaspora.
the diaspora. Yeah, so I'll put that link down there as well, so you guys can check out the videos he makes. I'll also be a guest on his as well. So yeah, he really has a lot. So we'll soon be coming to the end of part 1, but there's something I would like him to talk about. Someone made put a comment in one other video that I should talk about settling down in Canada. So I think that's the last thing we'll discuss for part 1, and then we'll move on to part 2. I would like you to stay till the end of this video so that you hear what he has to say about the settlement, and then we'll move on to why he chose Alberta, Calgary, and how to open a business and run a business. He's running a very successful business. Guys, you don't want to watch the part 2. So without further ado, let's talk about settling in Canada. What is the best way you would advise for a new immigrant to get settled? Let's not go back to 2013. Let's talk about now. In your own opinion, what do you think would be the best way to settle down now? In terms of, back then when we came or when you came, if you needed to get your SIN number, you'd go to Service Canada.
Yeah.
Right now, a whole lot has changed.
Yes.
Opening
True.
of bank accounts,
True.
Getting accommodation even before you arrive. So settling down involves a lot. What would you advise, from your knowledge, from your wealth of experience, what would you advise is the best way to settle down in Canada for new immigrants?
So my perspective on that, having gone through that particular experience so long ago, I still talk to people about it from time to time. COVID has changed a lot. So many of those government offices that you walk into at any time, many of them are closed now, and everything is done remotely. So I really can't say that I'm certain that if you walk into Harry Hayes today, you'll get a SIN number like I did in 2013. You may most likely find a number on the dot to call and provide certain information which will now be verified. And when that information is verified, then your information can be mailed to you. That's most likely what the process
which
may
would,
be right
which would
now.
probably increase the service time. What
Exactly.
would normally be a 30 minutes process can extend to 3 days,
or even a week, because they have to, you submit the information, somebody will verify, vet, prepare the documentation that will go back to you, and then that documentation will be mailed. So from you initiating the process to you getting your SIN number can take anything from a week to 2 now.
Wow.
Because it's no longer live, and it may no longer be live and instant. So that's one thing to consider. So the things you all get: a SIN number, get a health card. You typically get your health card in a registry. The registry is still open. You still walk into a registry to get your bio data.
Yeah, I was in one 2 days ago.
Exactly. So you still do that in the registry.
Talk about driver's licenses.
The driver's license, getting to drive is an interesting process. There's first the knowledge test. So you get the book, you read the book, you go into a registry, take the exam.
For Alberta is class 5 A and B, basic and advanced.
So you are writing the exam to get your learner's permit, which is a class 7.
Class 7, yeah.
Then after you get your learner's permit, then you take the road test, which you can take a simple road test that gives you a class 5 ADL, or you take the advanced road test that gives you a full class 5 license.
5A.
I have not gotten my full class 5 license even though I've changed my driver's license.
Guilty as well. But it's good to get the knowledge test, and get that out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. So you come in, read the book, get the knowledge test done. If you're able to swap your driver's license
from your home country,
from your home country for a Canadian driver's license, fantastic. So that means you just take the test and then you do the license swap and you're good to go. If you are not, then you may have to either wait as long as a year actually, because you are required to be a learner for 1 full year before you can take
Exactly.
the a road test,
Mm.
whichever road test it is.
Yeah.
So those are some of the challenges that you need to consider. So when you're choosing a place to stay, and if you work downtown and you don't have a car and you have a young kid, and you know you can't drive for the next 1 year.
Although I like to add, there are now exceptions where if you have really good experience from your home country and you have good insurance to back it, you could get a waiver. You could get the 1 year thing waived. Especially if your experience can be corroborated. And I know the registries have a way of doing that. If that can be done for you, then your license will be swapped for the basic one, and then you get to do the advanced test, if that applies.
Yeah.
So that can be done. For accommodation, I did this other video with Larry where we talked about expectations versus reality.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think we need to hit on that again, especially now with COVID, where it's really hard. Not only COVID, guys, right now we have lumber prices are on the rise, so you can't even build a new building. If you saw a building where you could do for 300,000, this is an arbitrary figure anyway. Now with the high lumber prices, it will go for say 400. In Ontario, the market is crazy, So I'd like for you to talk even for rent right now and what they're asking. So for new immigrants that are yet to come, how would you advise they go about looking for a place, getting those?
So this is my perspective. There are several factors to where you live. There is the price, the cost of the accommodation, whether it is a mortgage or a rental. There is your lifestyle, location. So are you the kind of person that doesn't really want a commute? You don't want to have anything to do with the commute, and you're a professional. You know that you're most likely going to end up working close by the downtown core. It will be a good thing to check it out and say, okay, where am I looking at getting work versus where am I going to live, so that at least you have a fair idea. If you're a family person and you need a fairly big accommodation because you have 3 kids, and maybe one of them is 9, 10, so they're starting to get some independence of their own, right? You need more space, so maybe an apartment downtown may not suit you, and you may have to start.
Right.
Okay, that means that there's some commute in your life, or with today's world where everybody's working remotely,
Exactly,
you
that's
may actually
another
be able to
thing.
set up a home office and work from home. So there are, like I said, there are many sides to it. So you need to think about work, you need to think about getting groceries and shopping, you need to think about where your social life exists. If you have one, you need to think about whether you have a commute or not. And then on that basis, you can ask people who are on ground, who are going to honestly tell you the truth and answer your questions.
Right.
Because that was still a conversation I was having with somebody that I had on my show recently, saying, hey, you know what, there's the official thing, there's a party line, that's the language you're going to see on the immigration website and the tourism websites. But there is the what I know, what you know, and what happened.
So the experience I have is, was back home. I always Google where's the best place to settle down in Calgary, and you'd see a couple of sites, echoing the same thing.
Yeah.
In Calgary, southwest, and then northwest, southeast. Stay away from the northeast. You understand? However, the northeast is relative because Calgary is divided into 4 different quadrants.
Like we're in the northeast right now.
It feels like we're downtown because if I could flip this, okay, I'll actually show it. And if I could flip this, you see the beautiful Bow River. You see the Peace Bridge. It's beautiful out here, and irrespective of where you are, Calgary is a very lovely place. But you see those articles, that will warn you of 1 or 2 places that have those, not so nice reputations. You understand? However, always speak with someone that knows the place where you intend to settle. So, for example, if you're looking for an apartment in Mississauga, you would like to ask those people staying in Mississauga how it is. If you know of any WhatsApp group, where Ontario folks are, that would be a good resource to reach out to and find out about these things. I would not advise actually getting all of your opinions on a blog or a website written by one person with their own opinion on where would be the best place
Yeah.
to actually live. So I have a little story for Calgary, especially
Wow,
where
okay.
they say, "Oh, the Southwest," and I understand why they say the Southwest. One, the demographics are important to some people.
Yeah.
Some people don't like discussing that, but the demographics are important. Use a place like Aspen, for example. A lot of people tell you, oh, okay, this is a nice place to stay. You look at the cost of the homes there, and everything. However, I've seen, from my own circle, I've seen a lot of folks that went with the internet theory and they started out in the southwest. I've seen them move to the northwest, where you have, in my own opinion, a more balanced, demographic. You understand, especially for your kids, for those that are family people. Those are the sets of people I see make that move. For single folks, though, you have a lot of them in the downtown core, where you have, the high rises, and you could stay in, those apartments. And the downtown has a bit of all of the quadrants. There's a downtown that has the southwest, the Beltline area.
Yeah.
There's a downtown that has the northeast. So it's good to have this knowledge before you actually make a decision.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've covered all aspects of settling down. And this is answering one of your comments you guys asked in the comment section. But however, I want us to end it here, and I encourage you to ask more questions in case there's something we've not covered. I'll also encourage you, if you haven't already, to still like this video, to subscribe to the channel. Let me know the type of content you'd want to make. Also, the questions shouldn't be directed to only me. I know you guys have questions for Dotun. Ask him plenty questions. He's very fluent in most of this stuff, and I'm sure he'll provide answers. So thank you guys. You guys should stay safe, and watch out for part 2. Thank you.
Thank you.